Hello, good morning, everybody. And like I say, thanks very much for joining the Ultima Microsoft licensing webinar, monthly licensing webinar. As always, this webinar is recorded and slides will be made available after the event. But thanks very much for joining today. And this month we'll be looking at, what I'll be doing is reviewing all of the Microsoft Copilot licenses. There have been some changes, so I'll update all around that and some other licensing updates as well. My name is Ian Gerard. I'm the head of Microsoft licensing here at Ultima, and I've now been here for just over 13 years. But the idea is that this will cover off a lot of those kind of updates from Microsoft, something that I speak to other organizations, to Microsoft directly about quite a lot as well, whatever's kind of the latest hot topics. I'll cover off the agenda, but the idea is it's a high-level introduction for you to start understanding some of the relevant changes, some of the upcoming changes, if there's any promotions or incentives available. Of course, you're going to have your own licensing environment scenario, very unique interpretation of how this may or may not affect you. So I would encourage you, you can see the contact details there, to contact me with any kind of follow-up questions. If you'd like a direct session, assess your own environment and how this might impact you, where those opportunities or where there were potential risks lie as well. I do encourage questions, so please let me know if anything kind of pops up, or similarly, if in future months you want to hear about different subjects as well. You can contact your own aligned licensing consultant or your Ultima account team, or like I say, my contact details are on there, so please feel free to come kind of directly to myself today, tomorrow, or the day after. On the agenda, like I say, I will just kind of cover off where we are in regards to all of the various different Microsoft Copilots that are available today for the commercial organization. I'll run through what the licensing changes are, or basically how to license these products, and then a little bit regarding the kind of the Copilot conversations, so the incentives available, the way we speak to Microsoft about it, especially if you're an enterprise agreement customer or you're looking to do a large purchase, how those negotiations or how those conversations will go, where the support is, and what levers to pull and to trigger. And like I say, I do just want to re-emphasize the point that that's going to be unique to every organization. So we're just going to have to do it at a fairly high level, but please speak to us to understand how to leverage those. We are still kind of within the, Microsoft's end of year was at the end of June. There's been a lot of conferences, a lot of account reorganization. The funding pots have been replenished. Since the 1st of September, it's all kind of been all go in regards to some of their new strategies for this coming financial year. So what have we learned? What are the changes? What do we know, and where Microsoft's focus is going to be? Does that align to your focus? Does that align to your roadmaps, your drivers? How to leverage them? So on and so forth. And then I will obviously cover off other news, other licensing news and updates as well. But like I say, I really do encourage any questions along the way. This session will be recorded. The slides will be made available to you as well afterwards. I very, very rarely take the full hour. In fact, I think looking at today's agenda, we should hopefully be done by around 10:30, but we will see. So as with all these things, and certainly there's been an awful lot of focus on Copilot. I know that Ultima, we've been doing a few different events. Microsoft have been releasing a variety of different kind of new. Some of the Copilots are very, very similar names. Some of them are available for corporate organizations. Some of them are available in different regions. Some are available for consumers only. So I think it's probably, and it's great, there's things like Copilot, Copilot Pro that's available to the consumer. But what we're looking at really today is the Copilots available for commercial organizations. So I'm just going to kind of quickly, or I will kind of cover what these are. The first one being the most popular one, the most common one that's spoken about the most, Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365. Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365 is the one that integrates with all of your 365 apps, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, The whole point being around to enhance productivity, enhance creativity, something that I use a lot, kind of working on use cases and ROI and promptons and everything. And I'll come on to that a little bit later. But yeah, the headline very much the Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365. You have then got something called Microsoft Copilot for Sales. It's got Microsoft Copilot for Service as well. This is basically Dynamics 365. So to assist with those sales teams kind of embedded within the Dynamics 365 applications, to assist with things such like processing sales, customer service, marketing, kind of get those sales insights, being able to automate those responses as well. But again, I'll cover off that a little bit more of the detail a little bit later on as well. You have then got something called, and again, I don't mean to patronize. I know a lot of you probably know all of this stuff already. Microsoft Copilot Studio is the next one. So this local tool designed to help users create and manage custom copilots. So you can kind of design your own prompts, kind of connect with your own AI assistants, all kind of tailored to your own business needs. Again, I'll actually cover off Microsoft Copilot Studio a little bit later on when we take a closer look at the costs and the licenses and what you kind of need to do today. There's Microsoft Copilot for Security as well. So again, absolutely designed to help security professionals, analyze threats. They've been available since the 1st of April. Analyze threats, provide insights, automated responses, threat detection. So it's something you can buy as a standalone product embedded into your existing security products. Microsoft Copilot for Security. And actually, I'm also going to include these next two, which is GitHub Copilot and Copilot for Microsoft Fabric. And Microsoft Fabric, again, just so new, so closely aligned to Power BI Premium per capacity, kind of shifting across to Microsoft Fabric, completely new space, kind of Microsoft very much pushing customers from the 1st of January 2025 towards Microsoft Fabric. How that kind of works within the capacity space, still quite expensive. That's a whole kind of separate, different subject. Maybe that's something, Microsoft Fabric is something that I cover in another webinar in another month. But the idea being that these products here, Microsoft Copilot for Security, GitHub Copilot, Microsoft Fabric, GitHub Copilot, so a kind of AI-powered code completion tool in development with things like Visual Studio Code. So it kind of helps your developers by suggesting kind of code snippets, how to kind of complete the code, provides documentation around it as well. So that's GitHub Copilot. And Copilot for Fabric will be kind of assisting with the data and analytic tasks within Fabric, within kind of Power BI premium capacity workspaces. So I've kind of circled Copilot for Security, GitHub Copilot, and Microsoft Fabric, because they're effectively kind of licensed via your Azure subscription. You kind of pay on a consumption basis, whereas the others, there are elements. I mean, Copilot Studio actually kind of straddles both, but very much with Copilot for Microsoft 365 and for Copilot for Sales, Copilot for Service, that's a license you need to pre-buy. It's a volume license you need to go and buy per user, go into the volume license website, kind of assign it to the users, whereas those in the box, Copilot Security, GitHub, Fabric, that's all going to be kind of licensed via Azure, kind of paying as you go in, kind of as getting a subscription service, and the more you use, the more it's kind of charged, but you're not kind of prepaying for anything. Let's take a closer look at Microsoft Copilot for 365. We know, and for a while since it's released, so, where are we? Yeah, a year ago, the licensing prerequisites have kind of changed, you've kind of adapted, you get a copy of these slides. Basically, Microsoft 365 E3 or E5 is required. If you don't have that, Office E1, E3, E5 is required. You can now, a prerequisite, you can kind of buy Copilot for 365 if you have Business Basic standard apps for enterprise, like old Office, Office Online. Even if you've got just some of the basic kiosk plans, OneDrive, SharePoint plans, almost any Microsoft online app, because it works within Word, PowerPoint, Excel, you obviously clearly need to have those products bought as a licensing prerequisite. If, for example, you've only got something like Exchange Plan 1, then Copilot will work within Outlook, but you don't have Teams within that or Word within that, so you wouldn't be getting Copilot. So you still be charged the full amount, but you'd only be able to use a fraction of the actual functionality within a very specific application. So it's really kind of important to know that yes, there are licensing prerequisites and you can see them listed there, but that's for the use within those products. So you will not suddenly be able to start using Copilot for Word if you've only got an Exchange Online plan and you're buying Copilot on top. You'd need to buy both. There is a minimum you must have every user must have a Microsoft Entra ID available as well, just to kind of track the questions and the prompts that they're asking, making sure that the data that they're accessing is relevant for them. So all kind of managed. We're doing a huge amount of readiness sessions that are available to you, kind of funded by Microsoft, provided by Ultima, where we're kind of sorting out all of your data, making sure you're ready for that. And certainly every user having a Microsoft Entra ID is kind of critical to that. There is a minimum 12-month subscription with all Copilot for Microsoft 365 purchases. This is across enterprise agreement, across CSP as well. You are entering into a 12-month subscription and you're paying up front. You can't even kind of annualize. You can't even monthlyalize your invoice. You can't have monthly invoices. It's all kind of paid upfront on a 12-month subscription. I've popped the price down there, $30, £25 per user per month as your kind of starting gambit. So that's really what the licensing changes, and the main changes with this are just with more and more products being added to the licensing prerequisites. The changes are kind of coming with some of the commercial things that they're doing with Copilot for 365 that I will cover in just a few moments. But the idea being that it's still a kind of a license add-on. You must have these licensing prerequisites, and if you're going to sign up for the full year. Microsoft Copilot for sales or for service. Let's just wait for the slide to catch up with me. I hope you can hear me well. I've been having some good connectivity, but if my audio does drop, please just let me know. So Microsoft Copilot for sales is effectively within Dynamics 365. Just waiting for the slides to catch up. I do apologize for this. So the Microsoft Copilot for sales could have also, you've got Microsoft Copilot for service as well. This again is kind of almost like an add-on to all the other ones we've just spoken about, but it's kind of embedded within Dynamics 365 Sales Enterprise. You need to have a Dynamics 365 license, and you'd also need to have one of the M365 E3 or E5 licenses, ideally in the background as well. So again, we've seen that users must have that Entra ID. So it's again priced at around £42 per user per month. This does actually include Copilot for Microsoft 365. So actually, if you've got, for example, Microsoft 365 E3, you've bought Copilot for Microsoft 365 on top of that at £25 per user per month. Now you're thinking that even within that, you've got some users who are your sellers, and actually you want to be able to help them analyze their data, who they're sending out, kind of automating their responses, doing that full sales piece. You can then actually just buy like a £14 uplift because they've already got Copilot for 365 and M365. You can just kind of add it on and step it up. It's a much lower cost. But let's say they don't have that, you're looking down the barrel of £42 per user per month, and that you're kind of buying Copilot for sales, Copilot for service. That's the kind of the price point, but you still have those kind of licensing prerequisites. There isn't so much the 12-month minimum term. It will just be kind of co-termed to your next anniversary. Again, so that's something to kind of worth consider as well. I did also want to cover off Microsoft Copilot Studio, and I kind of mentioned before how it kind of, from a licensing perspective, it kind of straddles both. So each user would need to have their own license assigned to be able to create and manage Copilot, and that does require a Copilot Studio per user license, which doesn't actually have any cost attached to it, but it's still kind of a license you need to assign. And then again, once you'd obviously need a kind of a tenant license as well. So you would then be able to start creating all of your custom Copilots, kind of integrating that into your various data sources. That tenant license would then kind of track, and it's kind of build and manage that capacity on a kind of a monthly basis. There's no kind of limits with that. But again, you're going to be kind of looking at least kind of the hundreds of pounds per month. Automation rights are included, but like I say, the per user license that you need is free. But then the tenant license, kind of as that kind of goes and consumes, is that's where the build monthly charges are going to be kind of coming to you based around the capacity pulled on that tenant around Copilot Studio with your as you kind of design your custom Copilots and manage them and so on and so forth. The Copilot conversations is something that's definitely worth looking at next, and I've alluded to it a couple of times, and you can see the detail up there. There are some commercial incentives available now. For a long time, Microsoft held firm at their price point. If you've got a CSP or you're looking at a CSP agreement, there is a 15% discount now available on. Oh, I should have clarified. I'm so sorry. Copilot for Microsoft 365. So that main one, right? That £25 per user for Word and for use in Word, PowerPoint, Excel. If you're a new Copilot customer, from the 1st of September up until the 31st of December, there is a 15% discount available for that first year, up to a maximum of 300 users. So many people are looking at exploiting that to help with that phased rollout, align that with the funding that's available so we can really kind of start tracking those use cases, building that ROI at a slightly more advantageous price point, being able to let you do that. Some of you will already have Copilot licenses, maybe you have an enterprise agreement. Microsoft haven't really offered any discounts on Copilot away from that £24.60 per user per month until you start buying up to 1,000 licenses. And then align that with the pre and post sale funding, the fact that it's a kind of a key strategic product for Microsoft, so it will really aid in your new enterprise agreement, your renew enterprise agreement discussions, but really not since it starts at 1,000 being a little, that kind of 10% for 1,000 users was something that they did at year end throughout June. As we're coming into this new year, they are still offering, they are trying to kind of push that to kind of 1,500 to 3,000 users. Some customers really being pushed those higher user base before you start seeing kind of double-digit discounts on Copilot. So then it's important to expand that out towards the rest of the requirement. Are you going to be using things like Viva to track usage? Is that fit into the product? So would Microsoft be able to incentivize that to a greater degree? Are there other wider renewal? Is there a Microsoft 365 E5 conversation? We've been able to use engagements with customers, kind of doing the readiness sessions, doing promptathons, buying a number of Copilot licenses, but then using the majority of that negotiation power to get a better price on Microsoft 365 E5 for all of your 2,000 users at your enterprise agreement renewal, or your midterm, and actually you're just interested in Copilot. So there's lots of different scenarios that might be relevant to your own organization, but you're not going to start seeing discounts on EA for Copilot until you're kind of over 1,000 users currently. I just kind of mentioned it there in regards to Microsoft's year end. And what their focus was on, and therefore what we can kind of learn, especially now we're in September for the coming financial year. I'll kind of build this out as we kind of discovered a few as we kind of confirmed a few points around what Microsoft are looking to do strategically and where they're kind of putting their focus. There's certainly the emphasis on the AI and cloud services, kind of AI and data, right? Copilot still being a very key product for them, and the investment they've made, a £10 billion investment in OpenAI, and obviously that focus with those kind of funding pots replenished is not going away. Key strategic products. It is important for Microsoft, for the sellers, to say, well, if you buy this product, that's something that we're heavily targeted on. It makes no surprise to hear Copilot is one of those. Microsoft 365 E5 is another. Teams Premium, Teams Rooms licenses. So those Teams licenses just kind of outside of those you get included within the bundle. A key focus. And yeah, I mean, I mentioned E5, but even more specifically that Defender product. Those, if you're doing any of those, if your roadmap's looking at any of those, if you've got non-Microsoft products that's providing that solution, it's something that Microsoft are going to be able to kind of fund pre-sales, post-sales, maybe get some pricing advantage on. Ultima obviously have all Microsoft 6 partner designations, and we have access to all of those funding pots and are able to do the readiness sessions, the workshops, the promptathons, or even looking at things like your Defender, your security posture, whether you're using things like non-Microsoft product, Mimecast, McAfee, how would Microsoft product compete with that? We do the actual deployment migration work, migration, right? So that's something which is a key part for us. And Microsoft have kind of doubled down. They focused on that third point regarding their partnerships, just giving those partners, such as Ultima and others that, apparently are available, their lots and lots of focus. We've kind of recognized the technical skills we have within our professional and managed services, and they're just kind of really enabling us to provide you, the customer, with that migration support and ongoing adoption support. Not just doing a piece of work and walking away, making sure that you're getting a really good experience with that, because they want to gain the market share, right? We mentioned about those other non-Microsoft security products, but just gaining that Microsoft share, it's so critical to making sure you're then using that. So as a licensing service, what we're doing is, once you've kind of invested in a product, are you using it in the right way? Why aren't you? Okay, great. Can we harvest those licenses somewhere else? Can we downgrade you? Can we remove that license altogether, so that when you can round to renewal in 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, that question of, should we renew, is less important, because that you've been getting good value from that license, and it's the correct thing to do. So that kind of leveraging of that data, leveraging of that user data within your organization, at every level, making sure you're getting the most from your investment, but also being able to find out where analyzing the threats, getting those insights, kind of doing some automation as well. It all kind of fits together, and that's kind of a key focus for Microsoft and Ultima moving forwards as well. There are other licensing updates that I wanted to run through as well, which would just like things I've spoken about in the last 4 or 5 weeks. The first one being, and you can see it up there, the long-term servicing channel for Office is released later this year. It's going to be around a 10% price increase. Publisher is no longer available, so that's going to be released without Publisher. Next year, or next year, in the coming years, I think 2026 potentially for Exchange Server, maybe the third quarter of 2025. So Skype for Business Server LTSC and Exchange Server LTSC are still going to be, there's going to be new versions of those coming out as well. Will be subscription only, but just please be aware these are going to be available. Microsoft will release, for frontline workers, there's a version of Intune available for them now, reduced price, available on CSP. You may have heard about something, you may not have heard, because you're not sad and followed licensing news like I do, but there is a new license coming out. It's called Office 365 E1 Plus. it's only available in Central Asia, Middle East, Latin America, and Africa. But with all these things forearmed, do we think this is going to be coming to the European and the wider Americas? I think very possibly. It's really, we do a lot of work with profiling customers, users. It's great if everyone wants to take E3, E5, but it's just a statement of fact that many of the profiling exercises do, that some users do not require that, just simply do not require that. And a very, very common secondary profile is kind of E1. So without that full desktop, without the full mobility suite, without the full Office version, but actually, you need Exchange, you need access to Teams. But then, we need to manage these users. So you kind of add Intune on there, and Active Directory, Entra ID, Plan 1 as well. But data loss protection to kind of secure those mailboxes. So Microsoft have effectively created this new SKU called E1 Plus, based basically on one of the most common second or third profiles we see within organizations, minimum of 100 users. It's not available. So I'm talking about it's not actually available yet, but I think it's imminent. So many people have got this. So if the more and more customers we get go, oh no, that would be of interest. That would be of interest. Something that I speak to Microsoft quite a lot about. Okay, we've got interest. We can kind of really push it. Have a certain, not a huge amount, a certain amount of influence. Just kind of making it sure. So if it is something that you think that's going to be of interest to you, it is. But I'm sure will be corrected. Then let us know. From the 1st of October, Microsoft are changing their definition of an external user. And now my slides are playing catch up again, and it will appear on your screen momentarily. So basically, the current terms state that anyone who's not an employee, an on-site contractor, or an on-site agent is an external user. So you then not be able to necessarily have to buy a license for them. Microsoft are changing those terms, changing how they classify an external user, kind of working it out based on the amount of hours, 30 hours. Are they working more than 30 hours on average a week for you? In which case, they can no longer be classed as an external user, and so you would need to buy them a 365 license. They just couldn't bring their license from somewhere else because, Microsoft will say from the 1st of October, you can no longer class them as external users. So I think that this will have quite a big impact. There is a little bit more flexibility potentially. The flip side of that is there will be quite a lot more work to manage these users, contractors, third parties, affiliates, so on and so forth. So that's a real one where you're going to have to look at your exact organization, whether you've got a large amount of them, and really get under the, really kind of look at the detail to find out whether this is how much this is actually going to impact you. Yeah, because it might be no impact, might be big impact. That pretty much that does cover off all of the changes, like I say, done by half past. I'm not sure if there's any questions, but please let me know if you have any now or kind of following up. Thank you very much for today. I think, again, the main thing I'd like to know is what you'd like to hear about next month, but please let us know. There we go. Okay, thank you very much for your time today. I hope my audio did kick in, and thank you very much.